morning, viewers, and welcome to the midweek edition of the Market Review, where we bring you developments in the financial and capital market as relates with the economy. Like I said, it's a Wednesday morning, and wherever you are, and particularly in Nigeria and across the globe, you're on to conversations this midweek on the private equity and venture capital activities across the markets. As we all know, that they play a very key role in financing companies, good companies that go on to do great things. And big example like what we got yesterday was the big market rally in the US, the Wall Street, driven by tech companies. S&P 500 gave that index that the tech companies are the big drivers in the market in the US. And thanks to the activities of private equity and venture capital firms like Sequoia that invested in companies today that we know as Facebook and the likes of Google and Apple, who are today the big tech players driving the market and the economy. So we need to look at investment activities of private equity companies and venture capital firms in Nigeria. Is Mr. Oluyemi Rufai, Head SME Advisory of the First City Monument Bank, to discuss this. Good morning and nice to have you on the program.
Yeah, good morning, Ottoabasi. It's nice to be here once again. Yeah, after the very serious lockdown. Yes,
and you're showing a very post-gradual easing interesting look. I mean, how has it been at your space in terms of navigating work and keeping safe in this period?
Yes, so, I mean, it's been interesting. I mean, the good thing for some of us is the flexibility to be able to work from home. So, and then, like you mentioned, the technology space has been really supportive during this period. So most of our meetings, physical meetings, have now been moved to platform to Microsoft Teams and the likes. And then, of course, because cinemas can't open, most of us are glued to the likes of Netflix these days.
You just talked about cinemas, and I'm remembering a great guy, Chadwick Boseman, who passed on recently. One of the few times I went to the cinemas was to watch the Black Panther, and what a great personality we lost in the movie industry. Great inspiration. But let's go on to business today. I don't know, do you watch Black Panther? Were you a fan of Chadwick Boseman?
Oh, absolutely. I was one of the very many fans that went to queue. The very first day it was heard cinemas across the world. So exciting, great guy. Unfortunately, he passed on. So rest in peace.
And that brings to space, because that movie grossed about $1 billion. I mean, it was massive. For Marvel, exactly. Showed what I believe private equity investment has done in the entertainment space in the US, which we would like to see happen more. But let's get on to first the conversation around the pandemic. How has it firstly impacted the level of private equity investments in 2020? Let's take a look again, review of the global and African level. We did that last time, but let's take a latest updates. What's happening?
Yes, so what you find is once governments shut down and activities slow down, that's what we experienced in Q2 between April and so that's why largely there seemed to be depression across board, every country, from the US to the EU. The only country that seems to have come out from a dip seems to be China, from their reports. And the US reported double-digit dip. Germany, same thing. So Nigeria reporting negative 6% for Q2. Was kind of surprising for some of us. We were expecting a sharp decline in economic activities. When you completely locked down. Remember, the lockdown kicked in just around end of March, and so between April, start of Q2, economic activities dipped. What sustains economies largely is when people are able to transact. The velocity of transactions happening. So what you find with the pandemic, what it caused and led to was a complete disruption of those activities. Human beings like to, were for economic gains and shut people down, you should expect that you would move into a recession. I mean, if you check our Q1 2020 GDP figures, it showed that we grew by 1.87%, which was a dip already from Q4 2019 when we had a growth of 2.5%. Yeah. And so for me, coming to Q2 and also further, we don't have to wait till Q3 figures come out before we know we're in a recession. But the question then is it going to be a V-shape or a U-shape or a W-shape recession? I think the government is doing quite a lot to see how an informal market like Nigeria is not too affected. Most businesses here largely earn on a day-to-day basis. So it was good that we rolled back, the lockdown plans quickly around June, and so by the time we begin to see Q3 figures, hopefully the recession will be a V-shape type. Of course, if you check private equity activities, the very few sectors that attracted capital is the healthcare space because of the COVID-19, true of the fact that our healthcare sector is actually very, very challenged. So that, we got some influence PE firms, into that space. Also, the Fintech space as well. People, would always need funding, irrespective of them being locked down. So few Fintechs,
also
we're also able to attract some funding. But I see more activities going forward as the figures in terms of the numbers of patients go down in Nigeria. We begin to see more activities come up.
No. According to the Africa
Venture Capital Association, which also encapsulates activities of the private equity firms, Nigeria still remains that destination for investments in Africa. And I'd just like to ask you, in terms of the need for more capital investments, which has been the bane of discussions across the economy and even at the global level, we are at that point where we need to really improve in that level. So from your interactions with colleagues, what are those key sectors? You mentioned healthcare, you've mentioned fintech. What other sectors have been the pivots for attracting private equity investments and venture capital activities in this period?
Yeah, so interestingly, it's good that you mentioned about the fact that we need to attract capital. Global leading economies like the US, EU dropped their rates so that, lending rates can go down. What we've found in the past is usually that frontier economies like Nigeria will usually try to raise rates so that we can then attract, FDI, foreign direct investment, because of the fact that, when investors see that what they can, earn from the US market or the EU market or the UK market, as it were, drops, then again, that they begin to have appetite for emerging frontier markets. However, the policy regime of the current CBN, team has been quite interesting. They've also followed a dovish, policy style where, rates have, completely crashed to unprecedented levels. You see Treasury bills rates, dropping to as low as 1%, or 2%. Even FGM bonds have also tagged along, dropping below 10%. So what that means is the policy regime wants people to begin to move funds into the real sector, right? The question then is how do you then attract capital from private investors when the infrastructural challenges are still there? The power situation of our country hasn't really improved. Different figures keep being rolled out, but largely businesses still depend on alternative source of power. So that's one area that potential private investors may need to look at especially in form of renewable energy. You see Wall Street, putting their money on Elon Musk, Tesla, and the other subsidiaries, because they believe that the future of energy is green, and the future is here today. So same way for us in Africa, in Nigeria. Even though we see a bit of investment flowing into refineries, I mean, Bois has just signed some deal with a French investment firm.
Yes.
Axel, exactly. While Dangote refineries, is still very much, being, finalized.
Chemical, and yes, it's
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, however, it's important that we begin to embrace renewable energy, and so some of the policy statements from government, some of the guidelines have to be very encouraging for investors, for private capital to be able to move into that space. We have a pension fund that currently sits on about 11 trillion naira. Most of the funds are usually gone to fixed income, assets. But with the current CBN, guidelines, it means that it's bills of domestic, private equity, players to begin to actually, come up with locally, local currency denominated equity funds. When you hear private equity in Nigeria, most of us look to the West, right? We look to the US, we look to the likes of Sequoia,
in Europe,
in Europe to attract funding. But that's own effect, right? Why our currency is being battered, left, right, and center currently. We don't even know where the Naira is going to settle at. And so, what we need to do, locally, is to begin to, believe in our country first. We've got to try to, raise our belief. What you find happening to us really is when the foreign, investors move their funds out, or when they're not actively playing here, we begin to see a huge dip. But then it means that there's opportunity for local private capital to begin to then be utilized to grow our economy. I mean, look at ShopRite recently announced divestment from their investment in Nigeria, and the issue for them is largely FX issues. And so a local player, a local investor, right, that goes
local denominated funds will not have such
challenge. Exactly.
Okay.
We won't have such challenge. Yeah. So we need to begin to be creative. come up with multi-currency funds that is largely local currency denominated, right? Then a bit of dollar denominated part of it, so that, right, because of course we need to import a few equipment, we need to import raw materials and the like. So that's that's where I think we need to begin to look into. And of course, in terms of sectors that we need to now begin to play in, power sector is there, renewable energy, I spoke about that earlier. Agri-business, food security is very key. A country must first be able to feed itself, and Nigeria is, largely blessed with what we need, right? Exactly. So, absolutely. So we need to focus on agri-business, right? Add value to it, not just plant or grow, seeds and then sell as raw materials too. We need to begin to build, right, the value chain.
The ecosystem work together very well.
Exactly. That will add real value, and then begin to, that way we begin to improve our export proceeds to earn even foreign exchange. And of course, healthcare space and education are very critical.
I like those aspects: healthcare, education, fintech, power,
agribusiness. Very, very important sectors that if we get much of those funding would boost the economy. And the idea of looking at a multi-currency denominated fund approach, but predominantly our local currency. That's what you're saying. Yeah, I believe. And that's what majorly most of our private equity firms, Nigerian-based, can do at this time?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very laudable initiative and approach that you've brought. But let's look at the recently signed CAMA Act 2020, the Company and Allied Matters Act. This is the first time in 3 decades we've seen a review and a reform of our business laws. How is it going to encourage private equity investments into the Nigerian economy? What are your the key players that you're talking with? What are they saying about this new act, the revised act? Are they impressed? Are they inspired and spurred to invest more in the Nigerian economy?
Yeah, so I mean, largely the objective that made the government to begin to put some of these policy amendments into place is because of the fact that the tax to GDP ratio in Nigeria, for Nigeria, is actually very low. It's less than 7%, as compared to average of 17% in other African countries. So, I mean, for me, the intention is right. However, the question is, implementation. Implementation has always been, challenge here.
Challenge in Nigeria,
Yeah, you're trying to make it easy for businesses to register, right? You're trying to make it easy for, businesses to be able to execute their meetings. So, you have online meetings, virtual meetings now being acceptable. You have, just one person being able to register a business as against 2 and above before, and a few other interesting dimensions to the policy. The question is, will it throw up some problems between the state tax team and the federal level tax team?
That's a big.
One of the amendments shows that the federal government, now recognizes limited liability partnership. As before it wasn't recognized. Just recently, Lagos State government actually passed that into their law to encourage, businesses, professionals to register as LLPs. However, the question then is, where will the taxes be paid to? Right. So if states now begin to see that, some of their revenues, are going to be challenged because the federal government is now, taking the bold step. What happens? Will the state begin to look out for alternatives to raise funds? We see situations in Lagos State, for instance, where, a couple of very, unfriendly policies, especially for the e-taxi, segment of transportation sector came up, where, a lot of fee, some interesting fees came up. So those are some of the challenges that the new CAMA amendment guidelines may throw up. However, overall, it was, intended right for businesses to be able to carry on their businesses, in line with what the COVID-19 has thrown up. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. That like you said, that clarity on the taxation for limited liability and the partnership is very important, and definitely it will help. Like you said, private equity, if a company is investing, have an investment here, again, investment, we need that clarity on taxation because it's very important to incentivize investments in the country.
Yes, absolutely. Because what a lot of businesses usually complain about is multiple taxation.
Yes.
So how we then go about implementing the new amendment is very, very critical. It's also not it's not just about amending these laws, right? You are amending the laws on one hand, right? You've got to continue to show the investment community that yes, you are for expansionary fiscal policy. What you see is, it seems like the CBN, Central Bank, of today of Nigeria, thinks that they have the magic wand to direct the affairs of the whole economy. That's not going to happen, right? There needs to be some harmonization of the fiscal policy, actors. That's the federal government and the central bank, monetary policy hand. to harmonize, their thoughts, their programs, their policies, so that as you're trying to make businesses be able to borrow at a cheaper rate. I mean, just this week, the central bank, sent in a memo dropping rates on savings account. Yes, that basically is tagging along a reduced lending rate and what have you. So the question is, as CBN is trying to make those kinds of moves, right? What sort of fiscal policies are we seeing? We're seeing very, harsh fiscal policies. VAT has gone up by about compared to before. You see the new electricity tariff kicking in this month already. Estates have already begun to send their residents letters to get ready to pay more, right? You saw pay TV space also increasing their price.
Council is looking to that now.
Yes, but so the point is, as you're trying to grow the economy on one hand, then you are stifling creativity, you are stifling the economy on the other hand. Three very key players in every economy, right, is the government, right, the individuals, businesses, right, and of course the central bank. Central bank seem to be coming up with interesting policies to grow the economy. However, the government have other ideas.
It's very important. The synergy, like you said, the monetary policy can come up with something, but the synergy from the fiscal side is very, very key.
Exactly.
Very key. But in 1 minute, Mr. Oluyemi, can you speak to areas like sports and the creative industry? Because like we just discussed prior to this, I mean, the likes of Chadwick Boseman, Denzel Washington, so people have tried because of investments in that space. And Nollywood and music and even sports has brought Nigeria lots and lots of laurels. So how is that space? Is it not a place that we can package some very laudable initiatives to attract private equity investments? The sports ministry led by Mr. Sunday Dare already is working out a sports industry policy that can be more business-like.
Yeah, so very, very good point. The Nigerian people have been known to be very creative, from inception, and that's why you find out that even with little to no support from government, right, the Nollywood space was able to largely grow on its own and then create wealth for people, create jobs for millions of Nigerians, and so it's important that private equity funds begin to actually look at that space, not just Nollywood space, right? Because today now, because of the pandemic, people are moving online. People are moving their creativity online. You see skits.
And just to keep into that, Netflix supported the industry with about $200 million just to chip that
in. Exactly. And so we begin to see a lot of inflow into that space, right? You talked about sport. Sport is another area that Nigeria needs to really focus on. But again, it's not only about funding. Funding is available, right? How do you get the buy-in of the fiscal side? That's usually the critical challenge. Funding is available.
Fiscal is very important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so the bulk stops at the fiscal side to ensure that when these ideas are coming in and these funding plans and strategies are in place, they back it up with the necessary reforms and legislations from the National Assembly. So that speaks to what the ministry is doing. They should be able to address these issues.
But unfortunately, it seems the ministry, that regulates that space, they're just coming up with unfriendly policies, right? How do you call a pay TV, a privately, led pay TV? How do you tell them, how to price their product, right? Okay. You've got a Starsight and NTA, alliance that hasn't yielded any goodies for the country. right? So, but you then begin to come up with policies that is stifling creativity. You're telling content providers not to be able to have exclusivity to their content. That's against the spirit of intellectual property. And so those are some of the challenges that we have in the country.
Definitely. I mean, we need to address those stifling regulations and policies to attract more of this private equity so we can become really big. I mean, look at California alone in states. It makes so much from entertainment and the creative industry. How much more Nigeria? Yeah. So let's look at third quarter 2020. We know that the recession, like we've discussed, is likely inevitable. And already 4 countries are in a recession, Japan, UK, Canada, and now Brazil.
So this definitely will escalate economic challenges in the country. For you, what is the outlook for PE funding for the remaining part of the year? And what will also be your closing thoughts in that regard on the activities and the economy?
Yes. So, in a nutshell, this year is an election year in the US.
Election year.
We're just about 2 months away.
Yes.
Exactly. So that's
and the debate last 6 months.
Yeah. So there's no clarity yet. The polls are almost tied at the moment, and so foreign PEs are taking some cautious approach today to emerging and frontier markets like ours, like Nigeria. And that's why you see the stock market, really, growing. That's where funds are going into. For Nigeria, definitely we're in recession. The question is, how do we harmonize the entrepreneurship spirit of Nigerians with the huge market?
Yeah.
It's 30% of its capacity in Nigeria. None has reached much. I would continue to come back to the fiscal policy players.
The fiscal policy
guys.
Authorities are definitely
we need to harmonize the policies to current trends, current activities globally, renewable energy, technology, right? Education is going online. So we need to begin to create policies that will attract funding. So the spirit of entrepreneurship is there for Nigerians. They want to go out there, right? But the challenge is there's a debt of trust to the fiscal policy players, guys. And so they need to come up with a clear path, rather than throwing up different policies here and there that don't seem to be coordinated, right? And so for me, I think we will come out of the recession if we're able to, coordinate between the monetary policy space and the fiscal policy space and attract funding, both local funding through the PFAs, and even, private individuals, right, who have deep pockets, and also we continue to, attract FDIs. Yeah, that's my view.
Yeah, because
2 quarters we've seen that FDIs have been low. FDIs have not been more than even $500 or $800 million for the first and second quarter. And this second quarter, the major one was other investments, talking about shares, not even the foreign portfolio investments. So definitely, like you said, the fiscal policymakers have their work cut out for them to encourage an investment climate that spurs private equity, venture capital investment into our economy. And you brought an interesting idea around Nigerian-based private equity firms exploring multi-currency options to improve their funding, and also itemized some of the key sectors that will be bullish for investments, which are healthcare. Of course, we know why, the pandemic and the need to rebuild our healthcare system. The education space, as we look more at digital solutions and approach. Also, the areas of agribusiness, power, renewable energy, and also the need for agri-business to be at that part of the front burner. So in interesting times for private equity firms, they really want to get more clarity from policies makers to ensure that they can put much in it. And like you said, the US elections, big one by November 3rd, but the debates are beginning this month. So all of them will be watching to see which side of the divide emerges so they can take further decisions. All those will be put into context as we continue these discussions around private equity and venture capital firms. That doesn't affect Nigeria's position as a leading destination, but you said it all. The fiscal policy approach is very critical, and we hope that we'll get more clarity and synergy, particularly with monetary policy actions. Thank you very much, Mr. Oluyemi Rufai, Head SME Advisory, First City Monument Bank, for being with us to discuss around investment activities of private equity firms in Nigeria on the Market Review program.
Thank you, Ottoabasi.
Yes.
Pleasure once again.
Yes, and hope to have you in subsequent editions, to discuss further on this. Yeah. It was an interesting conversation today on the investment activities of private equity firms in Nigeria. We had Mr. Oluyemi Rufai, the Head SME Advisory of FCMB, discussing extensively today. That will be all, and we hope to have you tomorrow, 10 a.m., to discuss our markets, and we'll be looking at the commodities markets tomorrow. You can join the conversation. Log on to our website, www.prochange.com, to watch our videos, read our news reports and analysis. To come your way again, just a word to our investors and public. Please, this period of uncertainties, beware of schemes, digital schemes, whatever schemes they are, that promises you 100 to 200% returns, but not registered or regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. They are out to rip you of your hard-earned savings and money. We don't want you to be victims. Nigeria has a case of lots of Ponzi schemes. We don't want you to be fall to that again. That'll be all for this edition. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day and stay safe.